Hi everybody, it's Kenzie Knox and welcome to my YouTube channel, and today we'll be following along with Joni Young Art and painting a little mermaid painting, and it's called How to Paint Mermaid Watching the Sunset. And so let's jump in and get started. Unfortunately, I'm not in my studio, which means I don't have white paint and I'm limited on my color palette, but that's okay. I selected a painting today based on the colors that I do have, which are yellow, red, orange, purple, black, and a little bit of blue. So just keep that in mind when you're adding colors to your palette. Joni Young starts off her painting with a background that is gray, so we have to create a gray color, and this yellow is closest I have to white. So I'm going to be using this yellow in order to create my gray colors or any other lighter colors that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my palette. My palette actually consists of wax paper today, and it works fairly well and it's fairly cheap. You can get it at Dollar Tree or whatnot, so it's very cost effective. I also added a little black dollop to my palette as well because we'll need that to make the gray. So right now I'm going to make some gray color, and I'm going to take the biggest filbert brush I have, which is actually a makeup brush, but it works as a filbert brush, so I'm not worried. And so let's make this gray. So I'm taking the blob of yellow and then add a little bit of black until I'm satisfied with the shade of gray that I want to achieve. So once you're happy with the shade of gray that you've created, we're going to go ahead and cover our entire canvas, and you can use some water to help spread that paint along. Okay, so now that our canvas is completely covered, you can use a hairdryer or a heat gun or anything that you have to help dry the canvas, or you can work on it partially wet like I'm going to have to because I don't have any supplies with me. But I'm also going to add a few colors to my palette right now, which include red and a little bit of orange. So go ahead and add those colors to your palette because we'll need those moving forward. We'll also need a little bit of yellow, so don't forget about the yellow. And then I'm going to add a little more of that whitish yellow color that I had, the bright yellow color, because we'll need that for the sun. So taking a medium-sized filbert brush, I'll be using this brush. We're going to dip into the red, then we're going to start painting our canvas. So the line that I'm drawing right now is basically the water line, so this is where our horizon point will be, and you can see I'm adding in just a little bit of yellow. I know that she uses neon colors and I just don't have a neon red, so I'm adding a little orange just to spice it up a little bit and add a little bit of variation and just to brighten it up a bit. And I even add a little bit of yellow here and there. I'm using white tempera paint, so I bought white tempera hoping it would work like acrylic. It does not. It actually adds like a media diluter, if you will. So if you add white tempera paint to any of your colors, it actually makes the pigment more transparent, and so you actually get like a glazing effect, which was perfect for this painting. So I'm mixing the red and the tempera paint, and I'm just glazing over the sides with the red. And make sure that you start from the outside and work inside, work towards the inside, or else you'll get these blobs of red on the inside that you don't really want. So pull your paint from the outside of the canvas to the inside to create these streaks. I apologize for the angle of the camera. I didn't realize that this angle would cover my hand and you wouldn't be able to see what I'm actually doing, so I'll have to readjust my camera going forward. So once you're happy with your painting, with the red and whatnot, you can go ahead and wash out your brush thoroughly and tap off the drips and get ready for the next step. So now we're going to go ahead and take that same filbert brush and tap into our yellow, and we're going to add some highlights to our red, and we're wet on wet, so it will turn some areas orange, which is perfectly fine and what we're looking for, so don't worry about that. And we're just going around where the sun might kiss some certain spots and bring in a darker yellow color rather than that bright yellow sun color that the whitish yellow color that the sun is made of. And you can see I'm also grabbing some orange and also highlighting with the orange as well, because the orange just adds a little bit extra that je ne sais quoi sort of touch to the painting. So I added some yellow highlights and some orange highlights and those colors that would really come from the sun. Okay, so now we're going to dip into that bright white yellow color and we're going to make the sun. And so starting from about a quarter of the way in from the right, we're going to start our sun, and we want it to end about a quarter of the way in from the left to just make it even and pretty much centered. And then go ahead and fill in that sun with that light bright yellow color. And if you have white, you can add in white towards the center to make that look like the brightest spot. But unfortunately, like I said before, I don't have white, so I can't do this step. And once we're done with filling in the sun, we can create several layers, so don't worry too much about filling that in and making sure it's nice and bright, because acrylic paint will need to be layered in order to create that bright color. So now we're going to go ahead and create the reflection in the water. So using that bright yellow color, I added some tempera, my white tempera paint to it. And I'm just creating these streaks along the water. And make sure you're doing horizontal lines, because in order for water to look more realistic, you just want to keep them horizontal. Okay, so now I'm going to add some purple to my palette. This is a cooler purple, so it's got blue tints to it. You want a cooler purple just for this step. And so we're just adding it along the horizontal line, just to create a little bit of a separation layer between the water and the sun. And perhaps this is land, or it's just, when you're looking at the horizon, it sometimes looks a little hazy, and we're trying to create that hazy-like effect. And now taking that purple color, we're now going to start creating some reflections in the water. And so we're just going to come in from the side. Remember, start from the outside and bring your brush to the inside to create nice strokes. And we're going to do this on both sides of the canvas because we are going to have some clouds in the sky that are similar in color. And so these are just reflections and shadows that we're creating. So now I'm going to pick up some more purple. I'm going to just create some wave-like movement in the water, just some shadow waves, just to show that the water is moving. Okay, so taking that same purple color, we're now going to create just a few wispy clouds in the sky, and we don't want them to be really dark in color, so we're going to create layers. So don't worry about trying to create these dark clouds, because clouds are vapor and they're going to be all different colors and shapes and whatnot. So I'm just dabbing my brush very lightly with that purple and white tempera mixture. Of course, you don't need the tempera at all. It's just something I found that was fun, and it just created a more translucent look, which is perfect for clouds actually. I might use tempera going forward, who knows. But anywho, back to the clouds. So I'm just creating just clouds all around the sun. And the closer they are to the sun, the more red they will become. So we will be picking up some red. Oh, there we go, picking up some red. And we add just to the clouds around the sun area. And if you're having trouble transferring your paint to your canvas, you may have to wait for your canvas to dry. Otherwise, you might just be picking up paint from your canvas. And we don't want that to happen. Now we're creating clouds on the right side, and keep in mind that we don't want identical clouds on the right and left. And generally, people tend to match sides, which is something your brain naturally wants to do, but that's just not how clouds are formed, or you know how they are in the sky. So just try to keep in mind that we want to keep it different from the left side. So the right side should be different from the left, but keeping that same technique in mind, that we want anything around the sun or touching the sun to be more red in color for the clouds than purple. And again, with the brush, I'm using very light strokes and dabs and whatnot, and creating layers upon layers to create darker clouds and just thicker clouds. And so when you're creating your clouds, you don't want to just push really hard on the canvas, because you will pick up some paint or move the paint, and you just don't want to do that. We just want to add some clouds to the canvas. So now that we've created our purple clouds, I'm adding some dark deep blue color, because I want to tone my clouds now to a cooler purple color. So I'm going to add my tempera to my purple, and then add just a touch of blue just to make those clouds darker in color and also more cooler in color. And that will be added to the top layer just to bring down our eyes and our attention more down towards the center of the canvas. And I'm using just a light touch, and I'm just dancing along the top, just moving my brush around, plopping it around, doing circles and swirls and whatnot, because clouds are fluffy and they're not straight lines, they're round in shape and form. And so we're just doing this color just along the top of the canvas. And so now I'm adding just a little red color just to warm it up, and then I'm going to go back in and add some other clouds below it, but they're warmer in color, so they're not that deep color, because we don't want that covering the entire canvas. Okay, so at this point, go ahead and wash out your brush thoroughly, and we're going to grab that white yellow color, and we're going to layer up our sun so that's bright and brilliant in color. And I started painting it, but realized, I want some texture in the sun. When you look at the sun, it's not just this flat looking structure. It looks like it's got like all sorts of haziness to it. So go with that hazy feeling. I'm actually doing blobs and circles and creating texture on my sun. And you don't have to do this, but this is just something I thought that would add just a little something to my painting. And again, if you have white paint, go ahead and feel free to blob in some white paint in here too. I just don't have it, so I can't do it. But if I did, I would. Maybe more towards the center of the sun where it's brightest. And then once you're done your sun, we are going to go on and do the reflection in the water, create those horizontal streaks again, and we're just creating layers upon layers of the sun color so that the color shows through, because acrylic paint does dry darker and it doesn't show through as brightly as you'd want it to, so you tend to have to do layers, unfortunately. So now I'm making this like peachy orange color, using orange, that bright yellow, and maybe a little bit of red maybe here or there in my tempera paint. And I've got this light orange color, and I'm going to fill in some of the clouds, or not the clouds, the space between the clouds around the sun, but not completely around the sun. It's just adding in some more natural color that you'd have around the sun. It does give off an orange hue or glow to it, so we're creating this glow that surrounds the clouds, and it will complement the clouds very well, because purple and orange are very complementary colors, so it's this very beautiful look that we're creating. So once we're done with that orange, we're going to wash out our brush, and now we're going to pick up that cooler purple color, and we're going to go over some areas of the purple that we had before in the reflection, and that's to reflect the clouds up above into the water below. And so once we're done with that, we're going to thoroughly wash out our brush. And now we're going to mix up some yellow and orange, and we're going to highlight the water areas that we haven't highlighted yet. And so these are the reflections again of the sun, and we're just going to warm it up just a slight bit. And it looks really beautiful along the purple. These are really beautiful paintings. And now taking the orange, we're also going to go along the sides of the sun because that area is highlighted as well. And now I'm going to dip into the red, and I'm going to add that to the water as well and highlight some of this area with the red paint. And so now we get to create our mermaid, and this should be quite exciting. So I'm going to use this 1/4 inch, or I think it's a 1/4 inch angular brush, and we're going to add some black to our palette if you haven't already. And we're going to dip into the black and start our mermaid. And so I started the tail end around 1/4 of the way in from the right side, and our fin will come off this one point, so you can make this line thinner or thicker. It's up to you. I made mine thicker by accident because I thought this was part of the tail fin, so I was a little confused when she was painting it. So this is not the tail fin, it's just the end of her, where her feet would be, but we're going to create that flipper like thing on the top of that point. So now I'm creating her hip area, so this is just the hip, and so I'm going to curve that up a little bit, and then attached to her hip we're going to create this torso. And so I'm going to fill this in, I think, first before I move forward. Now, I would wait to draw in what I'm about to draw in. This is supposed to be her hand coming down. You can draw it in here if you'd like, around this hip area. This is an arm, but you might want to wait to do this until you create the torso and the head and the other arm. You'll see what I mean when I get to that point. But now I'm creating her torso, which comes up to the shoulder. And you're going to see that right there is the shoulder on one side, and then I'm going over to the other shoulder on the other side, and for that shoulder and arm is coming down, and it pretty much comes down straight, or at an angle, but it's straight. At the time I was painting the mermaid, I didn't realize I was painting her smaller than Joni Young Art's paint was. It's actually to proportion on my tablet that I was watching, so you can make your mermaid a lot bigger than this if you'd like, but mine came out fairly well in the end, so I was happy with my painting. But now I'm just filling in the rest of the torso. You can see bringing it up to the arm on the left side, and I'm creating more of a hip because I felt like her hip was lacking some meat, so to speak. So I'm just touching that up right now. And then once you're comfortable with the body, you can move on to the head, which will be obviously centered on top of the shoulders. And so I'm just going to create this oval, And then just remember, shapes make it easier. So if you think of these things in shapes rather than a full mermaid, it'll be less intimidating. So I'm just creating this head, and you can make it, I would start smaller and then make it bigger as you go if needed. And then you draw some hair coming down along her shoulders and then down past her back. Or you can make it short hair. You can do whatever you want with the hair. It could be a little bun on top of the head. Be as creative as you'd like. So once you're satisfied with the head, or you think you're satisfied, we can go ahead and create the flipper-like part of the mermaid. So at this point, I'm realizing that my little hook area there is part of her feet, not the flipper part. So now I'm going to create the flipper, which comes down a little bit of a curve. Almost like a bracket sort of curve, and then it comes back up on the other side in the same curve-like motion. And then they aren't, well, Joni Young doesn't create them to have a flat surface. It's kind of like, she does more of a scalloped-like surface, but I did mine more like fin-like, which I thought was cute. So now I'm just finalizing up some details and taking that black and going over some of the more detailed parts of the mermaid and making sure that everything is thoroughly filled in solid black color, because the shape should be fully black as it is in the foreground, and we're just seeing the shadow of the mermaid. So I'm just tidying up some little detailed parts. And here I realized that the head might be a little too small for the body, so I decided to create a larger head just slightly, and you can do the same thing. You can always modify your painting to make it look better in some way, I'm sure, right? So if your mermaid is perfect at this point, then you're all set. You don't need to do this, obviously. So now I'm taking some dark blue, and I'm going to add in some shadows to the clouds and make them thicker, and just to make your eyes draw more down to the center towards the mermaid. Okay, so once we're done wrapping this up, we're now done our mermaid painting, and I hope you've enjoyed this experience as much as I have. I think my mermaid painting came out fairly well, and I'm very happy, and I want to thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel as well, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Okay, bye!